Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back here for some Circle Chat message. Open up the Circle Chat to talk with our panel here as we have reached the end of week 1 of the Circle season 2. What a week. What a way to close it out. I'm very excited to talk about all things through episode number 4. Number 4, especially if you have not watched all 4 episodes of The Circle Season 2, get out of here. Block the chat right now because we are going to be talking all the spoilers through 4 episodes of Season 2 of The Circle on Netflix. And I'm so excited because what a great episode number 4 we had. Let me first welcome back a man who has been talking about all 4 episodes of The Circle this week. Taran Armstrong. Taran, how are you?
Doing great. Very excited to be talking with a sort of geezer.
Yes, a sort of geezer.
Sort of geezer. Yes. That's what we've got. A sexy, buff young man. You are, Rob.
Yes. Okay. Well, typically I get called a geezer and not by Chloe from Too Hot to Handle or The Circle. So I appreciate it that now people see me and they say, "Oh no, he's not a geezer."
Well, exactly. You're not an American geezer, but you are a British geezer.
Yes. Okay. Taran, happy to have you back here in the Peapod squad once again. Hashtag loyal lad. Of course, we've got a big panel here to talk about this on our weekly roundtable. We're going to do these live each Saturday during the Circle here for the next couple of weeks here in the month of April. So hope you can join us live if you're listening to the podcast version of us. Of course, a woman who just got done talking about the Circle UK. Of course, you could hear her all the time on the Bachelor RHAP Up. It's the great Haley Strong. Haley, how are you?
What a thrill it is to be here once again. I have thought about pretty much nothing but the Circle for the last 4 weeks. And I'm living my best life, honestly.
Yes. Okay. Haley, do you have a particular favorite character in the Circle season 2?
Lee's tears.
Yeah.
Big fan of those.
Yeah, they are literally a river. Yeah.
I see those more than I see some of the other people in the cast. A lot of screen time there.
He's in his feelings.
How could you not be? I would be crying all the time too. I do not blame him.
Okay, as long as he's still JFTF, just for the faucet of tears. Very excited to have here with us to talk some Circle. Geneva Guadalupe. Geneva, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back. I was actually talking the finale with Pooya and Taran, so I'm glad to talk about the US. I've been watching a lot of the Circle over the last several weeks, so I am glad that we are being blessed with so much content.
Yeah, it has been very exciting times for the Circle fans. How does the Circle Netflix compare to the UK version, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I have found personally, at least if I compare these 2 seasons to one another, I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see how tactical and strategic the players are being with season 2 right out the gate. Because season 1, I don't feel like season 1 really had that going on. It was more like, we're figuring this out. We're playing this game. Let's be nice to people. There are elements that happen. But I've found at least the UK version overall to be more entertaining and engaging. But I'm excited for the potential of season 2 because it looks like from what we got this week, it was amazing.
Yeah. Very excited to get into everything. And of course, another person who was along on the journey on the Circle UK, welcome back, just coming off of an RHAP Instagram takeover, the great Pooya Zand Vakili, my hashtag 90-day fiance brother.
Hashtag 100 emoji send. I'm very excited to be here today. Obviously, when it comes to the Circle, there's always a lot to talk about. So if I was to short form it, VEFT, very excited for tonight. Can't wait to talk about these first 4 episodes out the gate for the Circle US season 2.
Yeah. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna take questions from the chat along the way later on in the show, but we have to start here with the top stories at this hour. And Taran, you talked about it on the update with Rowan this week about like, boy, wouldn't it be crazy if we actually did lose a big player like Savannah or Taralisha to start things off? And once it came down to it was going to be Emily and Chloe, I said, oh, this is real bad for Savannah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we definitely just skipped over the top headline of the episode, which is the resolution of that cliffhanger.
Yes.
Woo. Well, I'm so glad that we finally found out that it is Taralisha that Savannah did not trust. But yes, you're right. This was definitely a wild result here. Where this almost was like its own little 4-episode story arc of the rise and fall of Taralisha and Savannah, the war that they went at, and now it's almost like where do we go from here?
It's going to be interesting to see. Haley, were you Team Savannah or Team Taralisha?
I think if I had to choose, I would be Team Taralisha. I'm not anti-Savannah by any means.
Yeah.
I just feel like Taralisha had more of a leg to stand on in this argument.
Yeah. Geneva, how did you feel about really the Circle season 2 kicking off with basically a battle between these two strong female players vying for control of the Circle?
To be honest, I was very disappointed because both Savannah and Taralisha were like my top 2 faves from the very first episode. So I wasn't really happy about it. But similar to Haley, I think that I kind of prefer Taralisha in this argument. I can say, though, that, I mean, Taralisha did start it. So I do understand that argument. And I still do love Savannah. But ultimately, I think when you think about it, it's like actions speak louder than words. And the actions were that essentially Savannah did not save, one of the girls, and she saved a guy. So, well, I guess, catfished guy. But that's so I feel like when we look at that, essentially, I can see how things worked out more for Taralisha than for Savannah.
Yeah, Pooya, do you feel like that there was one thing that Savannah should have done differently to have avoided this? Because it did feel like that Taralisha really took it to the group.
Honestly, ultimately, we have to look at what her ratings were, because I think that had third place been in the influencer spot, she might have been safe, right? I believe it was Courtney who just misses, or Trevor just misses out on the spot. That could have saved. But it came down to the ratings, and it ultimately came down to the fact that Taralisha was first out the gate to put the accusation on Savannah, and it all comes down to the Chloe factor. She didn't save Chloe. Chloe felt things about it. Taralisha capitalized on that, took the girls under her wing more so than Savannah could have ever done so. And this is what comes to a head. What happens? I was very upset. I'm not going to lie to you. I was very upset to see Savannah.
I love Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rob, it was the save. It was the save when she becomes influencer and she goes rogue and saves Trevor. The thing that bonded her to Taralisha in the first place was her suspicion of Trevor. And Chloe was the one that was like, hey, I like Trevor. And then to have Savannah publicly go and save Trevor after that bonding session with Taralisha and the interaction with Chloe, it pisses both of them off in one go. And then when her explanation to Chloe was, well, I just bonded with him on multiple levels. Which was like, this is so shady. And it was really such a layup there. You save the person, you save Chloe, you save the people that you've bonded with, you reinforce, the first time you get power, the goal is to make sure that people think that you are reliable and that you will be consistent and help them. And when she goes rogue like that, how are her allies going to feel like they can trust her to save them in the future?
Yeah. it's wild that Chloe, who, you know, I thought was kind of like a joke for the first couple episodes, ultimately is the person who like is the downfall of Savannah. You made such a good point, Taran, about how, yeah, the move probably would have been save Chloe. She could have saved Trevor in the private chat with Taralisha, but really felt like that she did a bad job of patching things up with Chloe, where, you know, I thought it was sort of like just like it looked bad for Chloe when she was like making faces when Savannah was talking to her and Emily, but that she did not realize that Chloe had an axe to grind after this.
Yeah, it's just the wrong call, and it felt like she made that move and then was put in a situation where she couldn't make things right with Chloe, and then tried to get Chloe blocked in the influencer chat. Like, she created a situation where she had to clean it up by evicting or by blocking the person that she got mad at her for doing that, and then couldn't end up blocking Chloe, and just made Taralisha even more mad that she tried.
Yeah.
And that's where Taralisha comes in and starts calling her out, which I also thought was a very risky play and really could have backfired on Taralisha, but plays out the way it does.
Can we get into what did Taralisha do right to ensure that Savannah went home after she got into this feud with Savannah?
I mean, from my perspective, we're looking at in season 3 of the UK series, we had a player that was very dominant strategically, but what she would do is that she was very hesitant to really put her feelings out there and turn people against others because she was worried about getting caught. Taralisha had no qualms about that, and it's very effective. It worked very quickly, but as you saw, it also tanked her own chances in the ratings. So I think the risk here is that by so openly going against someone, now she is making people worried. Well, if I piss Taralisha off, is she going to call me out? Is she going to turn on me like she did on Savannah? Because they don't know the details of this. They don't know exactly what happened to make her do this. So there's definitely a lot of risk here.
Yeah. Haley, where do you think that Taralisha lands in the influencer rankings this next time out? Do you think she's back up near the top after this?
I wouldn't say she's near the top, but I feel like what happened is going to form a stronger bond between the trio of Emily, Chloe, and Taralisha. And so I feel like those will kind of, raise the waters for Taralisha. But I think with Courtney's always going to rank her last. I feel like maybe River is kind of not going to have her the highest. I feel like she's going to be at least in the middle. I don't think she's going to be at the bottom, and I don't think she's going to be at the top.
Geneva, do you feel like that the friends of Savannah are also going to be in hot water after this?
I think that there's definitely a possibility. I think one thing in general that, at least, even though we've been talking about what Taralisha did well, I did think that what Savannah did do well was kind of turning it against Taralisha by going to Courtney right away and being like, hey, like, she was trying to block you. So I think that's really important, I think, for the game, because for Taralisha, I think she's going to probably stay in the middle. I think we have a strong unit of 3 now after this blocking. So I think it's a question of whether the people who are friends with Taralisha, will they pull in Lance or maybe other contestants that'll come in the near future. I'm not really sure where they stand, because I think it ultimately will depend on, I think, where Taralisha stands. But I don't think she'll be at the top, but I don't think she'll be at the bottom.
Yeah. I think that with regards to Taralisha, what she needs to do right now is she needs this feud to be moved away, put to bed. So her move now, the next 2 people that come in, be chummy with them, get them on your side, because they can't be rated, but they can still rate. That's important.
Yeah.
And then use the time pass to kind of mend all the fences with everyone else. Because I do think that what she needs now that it's gone is for people to forget about this and for some other thing to take the forefront. Because especially with the dynamics of this particular apartment complex this season, I really do feel like, because like, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, it's been a surprise. The first 2 boots have been relatively a bit of a surprise. So I can't quite figure out, this is very different to the dynamics of other seasons we've seen. So I can't figure out what they're going to do next. I could see Taralisha, just because of how often she's been on people's lips, being targeted next. So what she needs is good ratings next time, to just let the time pass and just ride the middle a little bit.
Well, Taran, one of the things that I think is interesting where we've seen like in the previous Circle seasons where it's really the people who come in together, that's like the tight group, and the new people, they can never crack this. But in a Circle house that's divided, I feel like that the new people come in sort of like a unique position of strength where you would think that if there are two sides, that they are going to be very heavily recruited by the two sides when they come in.
They come in as natural swing votes for sure, which is why it's, I think, important for the rest of the players to sort of finish off the existing Savannah side before the new players get a chance to come in and sort of sway the power in the other direction, because that's the obvious play. If you're a new player, you want to go to the remnants of Savannah's side, the Courtney and whoever else, maybe Trevor, that she has, and sort of be like, hey, we've got you. Let's get you up there as an influencer so you can take a shot back. And that would be a great play if they're able to get that information.
That being said, that I feel like that our newest player into the Circle has been so unimpactful that Geneva, am I crazy that everybody in the Circle realizes this is not Lance Bass? Let's have nothing to do with this person.
So I definitely want to call out Lance Bass, or fake Lance Bass, because first and foremost, she puts her age in her profile as 41 years old and says that she started in NSYNC as a teenager. If you do the math, technically, essentially she would have been 11 years old when she joined NSYNC. So already for that, that's completely wrong and incorrect. Also, 1995 was like, 25, depending on when they filmed this, 25 or so years ago.
Yeah.
So the math is not right. So I'm very, very curious to see essentially if anyone will pick up on that. But I can say in general, if you are a celebrity supposedly going into the Circle and you say that you're going to use your money to go on an NSYNC tour, I don't think that's really going to go over well. And it was very clear it did not. You should say, oh, I'm going to give the money to charity. But that's, I think, where the challenges are if you come in as somebody who's either well-known or in a certain type of position. Like if we look at, for example, the Circle UK season 3, you have Gemma, who came in as a catfish, but playing a nurse, that can be very controversial. And then when she had the conversation with Andy about her true identity, Andy felt really uncomfortable on the intentions that Gemma would have had with the money. And so I think you have to be really careful if you come in as a catfish.
Haley, are you an NSYNC person?
You know what? Between NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, I was always more of a 98 Degrees girl.
Oh.
Wow. Plot twist.
Yeah. Wow.
But here's the thing. When I saw like the coming up on like the Circle, like Lance Bass, I was like, oh, I absolutely believe Lance Bass would do a Netflix reality show.
Sure.
Like, that is up his alley. So I was a little disappointed they didn't get actual.
He's a big
Lance
reality
Bass.
TV fan, Lance Bass.
Yeah. He
famously dated Riken from The Amazing Race.
Interesting. But like he's been on a bunch of these. He's been on worse reality shows, let me tell you that.
Yeah. Taran, I know you are no fan of Lisa the Catfish. I actually feel like, even though this was a very exciting twist to have Savannah out of the game, I felt like they should have opened it up to, because maybe Lisa could have gone home. It would have been that Lisa, aka Lance Bass, is so far the worst part of Circle season 2.
Yeah, it's been a big miss so far, and I know that they work very hard to protect the new players in the game because they don't want the new players just going right out the door. But I hope that I hope that she grows on me. I hope that something will happen here. But yeah, she's been giving me really nothing so far, and I would not have been upset to see her go.
Pooya, you have any feelings about Lisa the Catfish?
Not good ones. I also do not share the sentiment with Taran of like, I don't really like what I've been getting. I'm not really intrigued. And that's the thing with the Circle. The celebrity catfish component of it doesn't give you much because, again, it's all text-based. So you could tell me I'm sharing the Circle apartment with Morgan Freeman. I'm like, well, okay, it's someone I'm texting with. It does not matter. So like, you're not like, that's not jumping off the page.
Imagine texting with Morgan Freeman, though. I mean, come on.
That would be a great story, a great anecdote for sure. But also, I would still be skeptical on it. And ultimately, I feel like Lisa's someone who's just not really delivering all that much in the Lance Bass front. So we'll just have to wait and see if she does. But I genuinely do not see Lisa getting a high rating in the next review unless something's happened that they've not been showing us.
Do you think she'll even make it out of next week? Because I kind of feel like no.
No, I think it's a big. I mean, the fact that she thought I'll make a joke about using the money to start up a tour and no one got the joke. That's already a bad sign for you. Horrible.
It stinks. This is a funny idea, but I just that they almost don't even show her on the show. You kind of forget that she's even there. I feel like that the Catfish isn't working. I just hate it also that they let somebody catfish as Lance Bass and it's his assistant. No, you should. And I knew that somebody was going to catfish as Lance Bass. I didn't know it was going to be their personal assistant. To me, that feels that's cheating. That's not even fair.
But it's she doesn't even know the numbers because she said, I've been in the music industry for 30 years. So that would mean when she was, or
maybe
Lance was theoretically 11. So I'm she should have brought a book of fun facts about Lance or just the more important details if she was going to be him. But if she's already I need to make sure I have the math right and all this sort of stuff, that's concerning if you're going to go play someone that people know.
She might have been under instructions from Lance Bass to make me sound young. I don't know how old Lance Bass actually is.
Can I just say I'm really, and this is the first instance that this has really been happening to me, I'm really feeling my age after 4 people just did not know who he was. I'm what is NSY? I was like, Chloe, come on. But I know she's 21, but damn, where's the culture?
Also from the UK, to be fair.
Yeah, if somebody from Westlife was in, I bet she'd know who that was.
But also, so would I. That's the problem. I know what's going on. Yeah. Come on.
Another top story at this hour. We saw that Savannah got to go not just to visit anybody. Who do you think is going to win? I think she still went to go see whoever.
Who do you think deserves to win, wasn't it?
Who deserves to win? Okay. So she goes and visits Courtney. They have a chat. But Courtney has gotten a special power. He gets to go to the inner circle. Geneva, do we know anything about the inner circle? Has this happened in the UK at all?
Well, I mean, I'm not a full expert on the UK, but I mean, from what I've seen in terms of the circle, the only time I've seen much of the inner circle has not necessarily involved too much of these contestants. So I'm very intrigued to see how they give what Courtney is going to be able to access within the circle.
Yeah. Taran, do you have any rampant speculation about the powers that will be given to the person in the inner circle?
So on season 3, Emma, the host, was the one that went into this room, the control room, and she saw feeds of everyone's rooms. I can't imagine that's what we would be seeing here with one of the contestants, but there's definitely reason to speculate that perhaps they would be able to see maybe conversations. We did see that on season 3 of The Circle UK, where players were able to see the Circle chat anonymously without anybody knowing that they were seeing it. But I don't know how that really helps Courtney. Are we going to get into the preview for next week? Because I think there are some hints there.
What do you think?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Let me open up the chat. I think so. Here's what we'll do. If you don't want to hear about the preview, then skip ahead 60 seconds. Okay, Taran?
All right, there you go. So in the preview, there was this thing that popped up that said the Joker on the screen. And I think that indicates to me that perhaps this is going to be the power that perhaps Courtney will be able to play an extra character or something, the Joker. Maybe he can go and do whatever he wants to say or do anonymously. Maybe get into some chats with people as the Joker. Maybe there's an extra aspect to it that we can't necessarily know right now. But I would guess that the Joker has something to do with it. I would guess that it means that he can do something anonymously, whether that's actually have a power or just mess with people. I can't say for sure, but
yeah,
could be interesting.
Pooya, if you got a text from the Joker, would you answer it?
Yes, I would. I'd be curious. Is this like a comedic Joker or like a sadistic Joker? Am I gonna get pranked or am I gonna cry? I don't know. I'd be very curious to find out for sure.
All right, I think our 60 seconds is up, so we'll button this up. I was wondering, is it possible that they could see Courtney take control of the circle, like coming up with like group questions or activities like that would be coming from the circle and not from Courtney?
I love that. See, I've hyped it up. So I didn't see that preview, so I've hyped it up in my little brain that they're gonna let him see one person or like see one room to see if they're catfish or not. And I would really hate that because that is the room that Emma goes in and she can see everyone. Like there's live feeds in that room. So I'm really worried that he's going to be able to see like one room or something like that and have that information.
Yeah, I did think of that maybe you could get like some sort of like detective powers in Mafia and like find out like if one person is a catfish potentially, and then what would you do with that information if you had it. But I feel like the Geneva, it would be very powerful for like Courtney to get a lot of stuff just because the person who got evicted thought he deserved to win.
Yeah, I'm very concerned on what sort of power might be given to Courtney. As much as I love Courtney and I appreciate it, I just feel like a huge component of this game is everyone's behind the screen. You're in your own apartment, so you play and be who you want to be. So I guess things I've been wondering is whether we're going to see maybe some sort of situation where maybe Courtney could access certain chat rooms and see what people are saying back and forth. So not necessarily know who, like, for example, who's behind those, I guess the keyboard, but essentially just like seeing like private conversations between other people. Or maybe there might be some sort of, I guess, like we saw in Circle UK orange tally type situation where maybe at a certain point he could play as another player or something of that sort. I'm just intrigued to see, like, is it going to be something that's super powerful, or as people continue to get blocked this season, will they be able to grant some sort of power where other people are going to the inner circle? That's what I'd be really intrigued to see, and what type of things that we'll see that those individuals will get.
All right, I'd like to go back and go through episode number 4, and then also hear from Pooya and Geneva and Haley about anything like from the week that you really have been dying to say. By the way, Taran, you did such a great job on the episode recaps during the week with Bryce for episode number 2, and with Rowan from The Bridge, who I know has been on the Circle UK coverage, with you and Pooya for episode number 3. Taran is going to have updates for all of the episodes during the week next week as well. You can subscribe to our Circle podcast feed at robinswebsite.com/Circle podcast. And then we'll be back again next Saturday for the week 2 roundtable. So looking forward to that. But to pick up where
stuff in those podcasts, you learn what Anthony Promorphize means.
Yes. All right. Let's pick up this truth or dare game. And Taran, you called it at the end of the last podcast that Taralisha was the player that Savannah could not trust. Haley, what do you make of this? The world's most, what would you say?
Lopsided game, one-sided.
Truth or dare?
Like, I mean, I'm more of a truth gal. I don't like doing tasks.
Really, a lot of truth or truth.
But yeah, but in this instance, well, I could just be like, yeah, I put on the clothes and like not put any extra clothes on. It just seemed pointless to pick truth here unless you wanted to get in trouble. Yeah,
it was like, okay, dare. All right, we dare you to tell the truth.
Yeah, well, that's basically what happened to Emily, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, Courtney was the only person who had to do anything. And Taran, you said it in the podcast, but yeah, like this was silly to have him do this. It would have been great to have, like in last season when I think Joey and Shuby had the push-up contest, and I think it was Joey who wasn't even doing any push-ups. Like, oh my god, I'm wearing so many clothes. That would have been fun.
Yeah,
But,
let me tell you, the producers like Courtney. That's what I learned from this episode, is that he got the easiest truth or dare thing by far and ended the episode with a massive power. So they like him.
Yeah. Okay. Geneva, do you have any thoughts on how this Taralisha and Savannah battle ultimately culminated?
You know, I think it was definitely interesting to see how it continued to build up. And I know these games like to cause so much drama, but Taralisha already dislikes to stir the pot, and she's really not afraid to express her opinion. And I think because we started to see the back and forth over the last couple of episodes, it was bound to happen. And even basically Savannah in this episode says, only one of us is going to make it out of this victorious. And so they knew that coming at each other would result in something bad happening, and one of them would probably be blocked, because it's going to involve people taking sides in the sort of situation. And if you're friends, if you're friends with one person, you're probably going to vote Taralisha with a lower ranking. And if you're friends with like Savannah, you're going to vote, vice versa, that sort of thing. So I think watching essentially the war was quite entertaining, but I think Taralisha's response to Savannah in the chat was very strange, but I think maybe she felt that she had that sort of support because she was the one to initiate and tell everybody publicly, like, this is what has been happening, this is what's been going on. And at the end of the day, Taralisha was aligned with the right people because she had that relationship with those influencers. So I think it was definitely an interesting battle, because they are two women that came into this game that were like, we're going to be strategic, we're going to be tactical. And both of them basically do that throughout this first week.
Yeah. And it seemed like after the first episode, I'm like, oh, these two are going to run the table. This is going to be the final two. And then I never would imagine that this week turns out this way. But Haley, when during the fight between Savannah and Taralisha, that I loved every time they cut to Jay, that he was so upset during the whole thing. And he just he holds the picture of River. I don't know why. I don't know why, he's gonna forget who he is. It's not like it's his son or anything like that. Like, he has unless River was the person that broke his heart. I don't know, it's a weird relationship with this picture.
I think he just needed somewhere to put his hands and put all of his tension in. It's he just reached for the picture instead of a pillow. He doesn't have nearly as many stuffed animals as Taralisha has, so that's something he really should have considered.
Yeah. Pooya, this was so unprecedented to have this kind of fighting going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, usually when interactions like this happen, typically one person is kind of an aggressor, the other person's more of a submissive and kind of just doesn't do anything, and it'll just blow over like that. Everyone will look at the one person, they move on. It was very clear that first time that Taralisha stepped up to Savannah, if Savannah had just let it go, we might have a completely different outcome in our game. Savannah was like, I'm not going to let her lie and make it seem like it was all my decision. I'm not going to let her have that stake. She stepped up. Taralisha did not like that. They had this back and forth. And then in this game, it was very obvious once Taralisha went after Savannah. Savannah was like, the next time I get a chance, I'm sending it back. And obviously, very well done with the question they gave her. And of course, you knew where that was going to go. But then Savannah goes in on it. I genuinely think that this was a bad move from both of them, obviously. Yeah. But the one that's remaining now, Taralisha, again, if she's able to ride the middle now, she's going to be in a good spot because she's already proven that she can rise to the top by getting the influencer spot. I think where she beat Savannah is they both had allies. They both had these teams, but her team was better insulated inside the apartment complex. Chloe's so well connected at this point, and that is a good ally for her to have. Whereas I feel like Savannah came up short there. I think Taralisha is going to be okay now, but she needs to not go through this roller coaster again with anybody else. Truly.
Taryn, any other thoughts on the fight
Not really. I mean, I think that everything Pooya said is right. I mean, having a public fight like this is just, there's a reason why everyone is always very boring in the circle. That's in public, right? They wait until the anonymous stuff to start flinging mud. And that's because the second you have any kind of controversy, you're going to get rated down in those ratings, and you'd better hope that you have the allies to fix things. And the thing with the circle is that you don't always have control over who you talk to all the time. So you don't always have the ability to shore up those allies. So you gotta be very, very careful about that.
So we get everybody to go to bed. Savannah feels good about how the fight went overall. She's not going to let Taralisha push her around. The next morning, we get some talk between Trevor and Savannah, and Trevor basically, assures Savannah that Trevor has Savannah's back. It really almost worked out to be a very interesting scenario with the influencers, where if it would have been, because Chloe was 1, Emily was 2, and then Trevor was 3, that Geneva, could you imagine if we would have had Chloe and Trevor as the 2 influencers, and ultimately, like, Emily just basically concedes and goes whichever way the wind blows, but that would have been a really, really interesting influencer chat.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think that Savannah would have gone there at all, especially considering she saved Trevor. She kind of honestly did really affect her own social game and placement within the circle by saving him in the first place. But I know that Trevor definitely would have saved her right back. So I'm really intrigued to have seen what really would have happened with that combination of Chloe and Trevor. We know that there'd be a lot of flirty banter, of course, between them. But aside from that, I would be intrigued to see who they would be, fighting or contentious over. And even we know that I feel like Chloe definitely would have had probably a pretty big stance, especially when we compare her to Emily, who is pretty neutral and passive in her responses to everyone, which I feel like might be actually a bit dangerous for Emily going down the road.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because Pooya, I actually think that Emily was one of the biggest losers out of all of this, because that Emily's whole thing is, I'm not going to give an opinion on anything. And then for her to be an influencer here and having to make the call, on top of that, to volunteer, I'll be the one to tell the group. I felt like that one, Chloe came away from the influencer chat feeling like, all right, Emily, really, pick a side, grow a backbone. And then 2, Savannah was so burned by Emily. It was if I was Emily, I would be not happy to have been in that power position.
Yeah, I have a take here. I don't know if anyone's gonna agree with this. It's cool, it's fine. Emily is someone who's playing the Waffle House game, right? You're trying to ride the middle, you're trying to waffle, you're here, you're there, you're everywhere.
Aaron loves that.
That's fine. Yeah, exactly.
I don't like waffles anymore, Rob. You know this. Why are you
He's moved on. His thing is eggs and cream cheese, Rob.
French toast. Yeah, eggs and cream cheese.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I think that the minute Emily hears, oh, Chloe's got allies, Chloe's got friends everywhere, this was the wrong move for Emily. Emily needed to push back on this, because I do think that if Emily truly wants to play the waffle game and be in the middle of everything, you keep the 2 fighting sides alive, and or you go in another direction, or she keeps Savannah in and cuts Taralisha. Why? Because Chloe is clearly good with everybody. And as much as Emily has this allegiance with the girl gang, so does Chloe, but Chloe has extras. I genuinely thought that this was a very bad ending for Emily. I say ending in that the blocking being the ending, because ultimately she comes off very much it's not even hidden that she's in the middle. Everyone is seeing this. Chloe, one of her closest allies, is just time and time again irritated that this is happening. So it's only a matter of time before Emily's going to get tested again. And if she doesn't pick a side, she's going to get cut. And that's not a good spot.
To the point. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so I have some information, I believe, from Jack, aka Emily, on social media, who said that basically Yes, basically in the influencer chat, he was in a spot where he did not want to piss Chloe off and be in the same spot as Taralisha and Savannah, where she comes at him. And she basically gave him the ultimatum of, these are the people I'm saving. You need to pick between Savannah or Taralisha. And at that point, he was like, I guess Savannah then.
Yeah, because Chloe came out with the whole three amigos thing. It's like, all right, well, there really aren't any options. But Haley, for Emily, to the point where Savannah tells Courtney, hey, you need to watch out for Emily. I'm wondering if next we could see the Courtneys and Trevors of the world when they go like, justice for Savannah. Don't target Taralisha. I wonder if their move is going to be to target Emily next.
I agree. I don't think things are going to look good for Emily next week. I also feel like a major indicator of being in Catfish is kind of really playing in the middle and not having any concrete decisions. Because I feel like if you don't know your character super well, you're more likely to kind of to waffle in between, really. I just don't think the long-term prospects for Emily are looking good for me. I feel like Emily doesn't have a great read on what other people are thinking either, which is tough. I mean, we saw Saeed in the UK version have a bad read on pretty much everyone, but things turned out okay-ish for him. But I just, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of next week we lose Emily and Lance.
Geneva, what's your take on Emily through 1 week?
Yeah, so I think in terms of, I understand the fact that Emily doesn't really want to burn any bridges. Emily wants to form connections with people. But I also feel like a really important part of the game is giving out information. And I watched so many conversations this week where you saw the person who was on the receiving end being like, this isn't a response, like, or I was hoping for this sort of response, whether it's support, whether it was an actual strong stance or opinion on who Emily likes or dislikes. And I feel like sometimes when you don't take a side, it's also like you're taking a side in the sense that you may not necessarily be with them. And we even see basically in this episode, Savannah is like, are you with me or are you not? Which I don't know if I necessarily like that approach personally, but I understood that she wanted to know who she could trust or who she couldn't trust moving forward. But it's like a lot of Emily's responses were just kind of like, regardless of what's happening between you two, I'll have your guys' back because we're the girls, which is great, I guess. But I feel like when you're in the game, people want to make sure not only that they're like being ranked well, but if they have to worry about you and how you might rank them, they might rank you low too. So I do really hope that I feel that we see beyond this point that Emily will be at least a bit more open with her thoughts and opinions in terms of the players. Maybe not necessarily in the way that Taralisha is very open, like in the first episode coming, or like, in the first time that she was influencer coming straight for Courtney. I don't know if necessarily with the first blocking, I'd really want to make that big of a move if I'm noticing someone might be a threat in the future. But I think Emily really needs to not only strengthen those bonds and connections, but also really focus on the character and like what her character thinks is the best strategically, and also explain to people like, this is actually how I feel about this person. Obviously, you don't have to tell the 100% truth, but so they actually believe that you're a person.
Right. Taran, like in a Big Brother season, if it's a super divided house, like the safest place to be like might be in the middle, but it's probably also the hardest thing to do it well and not alienate the two sides.
It pisses people off. It pisses both sides off because you're not taking a stance, and it feels wishy-washy, and it feels like you're playing the game, which is exactly what you're doing. Now, the benefit can be that while it might piss people off, you can't really do anything about it, because at the end of the day, the person who's wishy-washy is still less threatening to you than the person that's saying, I want you gone. So there is a lot of benefit to it. But I think where Emily really gets it wrong is when she is talking to Chloe, who is ostensibly her biggest ally in the game. And Chloe does rate Emily #1. And so like there's some real trust there. And so you don't need to be as careful, in my opinion, when talking to Chloe. You can have some more opinions. You can open up a bit more. You don't have to actively protect people or go against your word or anything like that. But you can, at the very least, make her feel like you're opening up to her, and don't just put the entire onus on her. I get where Jack was coming from in that moment, but I don't think he played it well socially.
We saw also the day after the fight when Taralisha is going to message Courtney to try to suss out what's going on and where Courtney stands and all this. And Taran, poor Courtney can't ever get a workout in without somebody interrupting him.
You know, he's got. Look, I think when your workout is starfishing and jump wiggles, you know, I don't know what else he's doing. So it's
this was warrior pose.
Warrior pose. Well, see, where does the fish come in with that, Rob? Are there fish warriors? Is it the last fishery? Like, what's going on?
There is a fish pose where you're like laying on your back like this.
Why wasn't he doing that one?
That I can't answer for you.
Why have they not? They've just left it there. No explanation. Haven't returned to it. I'm surprised that nobody else is freaking out about this like I am.
Yeah. Pooya, how do you think Courtney played this call from Taralisha?
I think Courtney did relatively decent. I've been a big fan of Courtney from the jump, and I think that Courtney's someone who was very clearly in the Savannah camp, but wasn't someone who's like, I'm sinking with the ship. I think Courtney's going to be just fine moving forward here. And as far as talking to Taralisha goes, you have to walk that fine line. Like Courtney's not supposed to be the one to talk smack to Taralisha, but just get through that conversation, you know, survive it, move forward. And that's kind of where I feel like he ends up going.
Did anybody think that Taralisha did a bad job on calling Courtney here?
I actually didn't mind this from Taralisha. I thought she played it decently well. So obviously, he asks her, having already been told information from Savannah, did you have any part in keeping me? And she immediately says he's trying to trap me right now. And I thought her response was actually pretty good. She says, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't have much of a reason to fight for you to stay, but I didn't have a reason to push for you to go either, which kind of, it's a believable story because she's admitting to a little bit, and it kind of opens the door for Courtney to maybe, if he's so inclined, to go, maybe Savannah was exaggerating to me because she wanted me to dislike Taralisha. Maybe I don't need to be as wary of Taralisha as I think. And in fact, he says, you know, I only 50% believe her, and 50% is not bad considering he was at 0% at the start of this conversation. I thought this was pretty well done. It's obviously going to be completely torn apart when Savannah visits him, but I thought it was a decently done conversation.
Geneva, do you think that in Taralisha's eyes that she feels like that Courtney is somebody that she could potentially work with, or is he too closely associated with Savannah and that he has to go next?
I think that she knows that she needs to make solid relationships with people in the circle, but she probably is not aware that to the extent of what Savannah has said to Courtney about what was discussed in that influencer chat. But I think this is a good step for Taralisha in general, because you want to make sure that you are communicating with everybody and you are forming an individual relationship with everybody. I do think that since we saw the first time, you know, as she was the influencer, she was really like, he's going to be a threat down the line. I need to get him out now, which I was kind of like, I can see that you could tell he's popular, but he hasn't really done anything yet for me personally to have been worried to make a move like that. But I do think that considering, I think she's going to try and keep him decently close, maybe in the hopes that he won't rank her at the bottom. But obviously she doesn't know about the extent between Courtney and Savannah's conversations.
We got a girl chat going. Savannah wants to go to Emily and to Chloe to say, you can't trust Taralisha. Haley, this seemed like a mistake, right?
yeah, like it's just when you get into this, it's a little messy. I feel like you can give people little tidbits of information and kind of try and lead them to make their own decisions about people. But to outright be like, you cannot trust Taralisha, like be on my side, it's a little like, okay, why do you say that, my friend? And especially because Chloe's like, okay, well, I don't actually trust you because you said that you were going to look out for the girls and then you saved a guy that you told me not to be cool with. So, like, I don't actually trust your intentions. I thought maybe in a vacuum, this isn't like the worst, but based on what Savannah had already done, like, it was just not great for her.
Pooya, what the hell is a Peapod squad?
Listen, 2 peas in a pod, I've heard that. Right now we have 5 podcasters in a pod. I've heard that. Peapod squad, it's just rhymes. All right. It's got to be the pod and the squad rhymes. So we're going to go with that. Otherwise, I don't know beyond that. I'm not well learned enough to understand stuff like that.
Yeah, Taran, also Emily hashtagged young, wild, and free.
Hashtag young, wild, and free. Yeah. I mean, you've got to be young, wild, and free. Hey, I'm looking up Peapod Squad, hashtag Peapod Squad. It existed before the circle.
Yes. Okay.
What was in reference to?
Agriculture?
I have no idea.
Botany?
Do I look like I went to kindergarten? Hashtag honest questions. Hashtag Peapod Squad.
I'm not sure.
No.
Yeah. Haley, I just find that Emily's response, like, it just seems like so basic. And like, she came in and said, like, hey, I don't want to be some basic girl in here. And then everything is like, hashtag rose all day, hashtag young, wild, and free.
Yeah, like, I'm surprised she doesn't tell everyone in the chat that she has like an anchor tattoo on her to remind her not to ever sink or whatever. I'm really disappointed with Emily because I just wanted so much more. Like, I feel like if he played as himself, we would have had such like a more well-rounded character and gameplay where, like, we're getting like an SNL sketch version of like what a millennial woman is.
Geneva, I do think it's funny, though, that I feel like that the person that this worked the best on was Chloe, who almost herself is like a cartoonish rose all day, young, wild, and free, hashtag boy crazy. Like, I feel like that she's like, yes, this is my person. But even Chloe is like, yeah, come on. They're like, what is this?
Chloe just wants her to say something, and she's not saying anything.
She's like, have a perspective. Come on. Like, what's going on here? Yeah, I think that's actually quite surprising, too, because I feel like I did see like Too Hot to Handle. So I do have a bit of, I guess, experience of watching Chloe. And I think like similar to how she didn't know, certain references, obviously she's not from the US, but even so, I feel like there's a lot of influence in the US and the UK and vice versa in terms of artists and such. I think it's very interesting to see that even Chloe at this point is just like, Emily, you're not saying anything. You're not like, why is it me why am I having to carry the conversation here? And I just think that, I don't know if it's because Emily wants to wait a bit longer before she does anything, because I think Jack basically in his intro package talked about potentially being the biggest villain in the circle. So I want to see how we're going to get there, because I'm not seeing that at this point, because right now it just seems like, and I don't know if that's like the strategy is play both sides. No one knows really what I'm thinking. And then if I'm an influencer, then that's my villainous side with who I block. But I think that it's kind of funny considering Chloe, I guess their relationship, and seeing how I think that Chloe's even on to Emily, and so there's something that's not right here.
Going back to Chloe for a second, Haley, do you have any idea what's in a porn star martini?
I feel
is this
like
a real drink?
Yeah, it is. It must be. Are martinis vodka based?
They can be, or gin.
Yeah, it's probably like a vodka shot with like a sourpuss.
Pooya,
shot,
have you had
like
one of these?
Have I had one?
No, but Pooya. Yeah, the porn star martini. Okay, how was it?
It was okay. It was okay. It was one of those things where when I first started drinking, I didn't know anything about anything. So I'd look at the drink menu. I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. Sure, let's do that. So I just looked up the recipe though, because I didn't know. I just drank it. But so this ingredients one has vanilla flavored vodka, passion fruit liqueur, passion fruit puree, lime juice, vanilla simple syrup, sparkling wine. It's basically a lot of passion fruit, which I guess makes sense.
Mhm.
There you go.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't think porn stars are known for.
All passion, all the time.
Passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Then before we get to ratings, and we see Trevor and Lance Bass talk briefly about I think they play basketball, and then Lance Bass wants to know about what's going on with the girls, and Trevor is like, "Hey, listen, bro, that's all girl drama," which is like how probably most people talk to Lance Bass, right, Pooya?
Yeah, it sounds about right. It sounds about right. I mean, see, and like this has been talked about on the episodes now, but Taran put it perfectly in that the circle has really reminded me that there are gender stereotypes that people still subscribe to, of like, no, men don't. Do you don't think I gossip? Like, I love it. Give me it. Like, this is a gender neutral hobby, my friend. This is a very gender neutral spot. I want all the gossip. I want all the messiness. I will subscribe to it all the time.
Mhm.
So I was like, ain't like if Trevor tried to hit me with that big, come on. Like, you are telling, I want to talk about this stuff. I want all of it.
Yeah. To be fair, only women are watching The Circle. Obviously, there are no men watching The Circle, watching this drama stuff. This is not for men. They're busy watching sports. I don't know what you
sports.
like, yeah.
Team
Yeah.
Saquon. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. Geneva, do you find it weird nobody asks Lance Bass any good stories about being an NSYNC? What's Joey Fatone really like?
I would be intrigued to see more of that. I feel like they're not giving Lance that much screen time, or maybe not many people are talking to Lance. Maybe because a lot of people are already suspicious of Lance. They're just like, I'm not even going to bother wasting any of my circle messages on Lance right now. Maybe we'll get to know more of him later in like the public chats. I do find it surprising, but I think since people already suspect that he's a catfish, they probably are like, there's not much I need to dig into right now.
Mhm.
But maybe next week with week 2, we'll start to see more of that, where people will try to hear more Lance stories, especially like Courtney, for example, through his job in entertainment, knowing a lot about like celebrities and NSYNC, being a huge NSYNC fan. I think we'll probably see maybe more investigation soon, but I think people probably aren't necessarily excited to know a potential catfish Lance Bass.
Mhm.
Or maybe his story about ripping his pants was so Yawn City they don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah.
That's
I
true.
find it fascinating that Lisa's worked with him for 14 years and did not have a real embarrassing story, so much so that she had to make one on the fly. It was like, that was, come on, it's been 14 years. There's definitely something in there. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, and the one that she makes up is I ripped my pants on stage. Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
this is the most unoriginal thing I could think of.
That's why I think she should have brought like a manual, like with all like the important like facts about Lance's
Yeah.
life, like, and just like, because I feel like a lot of these questions would be expected. So like, what's your most embarrassing moment? Like, where have you really enjoyed traveling? Or like, what? I feel like there's a variety of questions that probably would be asked in general conversations as icebreakers. And so she should have just been like, Lance, I want to know the answers to these basic questions, like favorite color, favorite
Yeah.
this, favorite that. But it didn't seem like she did her research, which I wish she kind of did if she was going to play him.
Well, speaking of the manual, just to go back to hashtag Team Saquon, which I don't know any Giant fan that would say the hashtag Team Saquon. But that kudos to Trevor for sending his wife out there with like the Gray's Sports Almanac of the like, here's everything about New York sports, and just happened to write, if anybody asks you about the Giants, Saquon Barkley is injured.
Trevor's the real Trevor's the real MVP of the circle.
Like a real, I mean, I'd love to like get a copy of like what else was in there.
Yeah, I really do enjoy when people have some kind of file with all the information they need for the catfish they are being, because it does come in handy. I quickly want to point this out as well. I feel like every other season of the Circle I've watched, there's at least one, if not two, like dedicated catfish hunters where their whole point is to poke holes in people's stories and figure stuff out. I don't know if I can identify that person here, which I think someone like Lisa's greatly benefiting from, because there's got to be someone like Taran. Who would you say is the dedicated catfish investigator at this stage?
I'm Trevor.
Which is ridiculous.
Trevor's the one that seems to care the most. I mean, I think when Lance Bass waltzes into your game, the idea of there being a catfish hunter becomes a bit redundant. It's like, hold on, guys. I've got a theory. I think that maybe this is not really Lance Bass. I know, but hear me out. I've got a lot of clues. Like, okay, we're good. We're good.
Yeah. Should they accuse Lance of being a catfish just to set him up to say it's going to be me?
I would like that. I'm here for that kind of menacing nonsense. But I don't know if I trust Lisa to make the reference correctly, and that's the biggest problem for me.
Probably not. We got our rankings coming up. Ratings time. And Taran, did you see anything? Did Savannah tactically do anything wrong here to set this, perfect storm where she was going to go home?
So the only real thing we saw from Savannah was that she put Emily 5th, which I thought was interesting and honestly seems like perhaps was the right call. Now, I think probably the thing that screwed her up the most is that I imagine she put Taralisha 6th. And so if perhaps she had swapped those, because Taralisha did not need to be 6th. She is going to come in dead last. So she did not need to help contribute to that. If she had the forethought to say, you know what, maybe I'll put Taralisha like 4th. And then if I'm really worried about Emily, I'll put Emily last. But
she wasn't worried about Emily yet.
She was clearly worried about Emily because she gave Emily the second to last rating, right? So even though she's later going to be like, well, hopefully Emily saves me, her ratings tell a different story to me, which is that she was concerned about Emily, and she should have been concerned about Emily considering Emily made this call. And so I think that the piling on of Taralisha was probably the biggest mistake that she made, but it's hard to even say for sure because we don't know why she put Emily 5th, and we don't know what her other ratings were.
Did anybody notice anything else unusual from the rankings or anything of note?
No. Are you? Did you notice something?
No, I'm just.
Okay.
I want to move on to the next thing. I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that people wanted to say.
But it was interesting. So Courtney put River 2nd, which was a misread here from Courtney, or at least seems to be. But Courtney seems to have some kind of relationship with River and doesn't seem to know that River is strictly anti-Savannah and pro-Taralisha. But I imagine we're going to talk about this Kardashian group.
Yeah, the Kardashian group. Kardashians with a C. Chloe, River, and Courtney. And I'm wondering, could this be the new base of power in the house? Later on, Chloe will refer to them as the three amigos. Chloe, River, and Courtney. And we just see sort of like a little bit of like a cheeky scene of like, okay, you try out some British phrases, try on some Texas phrases. Haley, do you feel like that? Is this something Chloe, River, and Courtney?
I feel like Chloe and Courtney could be a good duo. I just don't think Leah's River has enough of the cutthroat in him to actually be an effective game player here. Like, I feel like anytime they would try and strategize, he would be like, oh, well, we can't do that because of this, and that. Like, I feel like he's very much like Brian, to just like an older version.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he seems to want, like, he was like very much like, I want Savannah out. She's messing with my big sis. But
then he cried when she left.
then
He was
when
like,
it
I wanted her out, but I'm still
Right.
obsessed she's leaving.
like, it's very Josh Big Brother, right? Of like like cry after it happens.
Yeah.
But he's still willing to do it.
Yeah, Taran, as someone who was with you for every recap of the Circle UK this season, when we saw this author come through, I thought Taran's dreams have come true. They really picked the worst person for this theory of yours.
I did specify it has to be a good author. I did say that. So I just want everyone to know.
Well, have you read Lee's literary work?
I have not. I'm not
Okay.
saying he's not.
Well,
a
has
good
anybody found them?
No.
Like, do we know his books? And are the Circle fans like Big Brother fans, where they're going to leave like 1-star reviews if he ends up getting out somebody who's a fan favorite?
Rob, no one is like the Big Brother fans. We are a unique bunch. This never gonna happen. Yeah, no.
So
I
think part of the problem is that he said he wrote under a pseudonym, a female pseudonym,
Yes.
for a long time.
Hmm.
But it looks like his Goodreads page has 2 novels on it.
Yes.
It
One.
goes by Chris Cook.
Oh, really? She's doing better research than me. Under the name Lee Swift, he wrote Morvicti Blood,
scary.
which sounds like a vampire novel to me.
It does.
I'm not sure. It is a fantasy mystery. So who knows?
Okay.
If Bram Stoker had written a Game of Thrones, this is the book he'd have produced, says Andrew Grant.
Interesting.
All right, Andrew. We'll talk to you later, Andrew. Yeah, I do want to give Lee credit where credit is due. Picking the name River is very apt when you're busy crying them all the time. Everyone's leaving the circle.
Yes.
So
Also,
Okay.
good opportunity for Lance Bath to jump in and say, "Oh, you cry me a river. I know that guy."
I've hung out with him once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We get our ratings. Taralisha is 7th. Savannah is 6th. Courtney is 5th. River is 4th. Trevor in 3rd. Emily in 2nd. And Chloe number 1. Geneva, as somebody who's watched Too Hot to Handle, like, does it blow your mind to see Chloe here number 1 in the Circle power rankings?
Well, it's funny because she like shouted, "I'm an influencer," and I'm like, "That's what you are in real life."
Yeah, that was your job title.
So, yeah, I mean, in terms of Chloe on Too Hot to Handle, like she was known for being kind of more, like the ditzy type person. She had a lot of, sexual tension and frustration that she wanted to get out. So she lost the cast like $6,000 for kissing 2 different guys that she didn't really end up with. So it was definitely a tragic event for her. But
Geneva, you audited Chloe.
I mean, I think the thing was that basically as part of the show, if they did something like kiss or like beyond that, basically they would get charged and lose from the shared cash prize.
Yeah.
So a lot of people lost a lot of money, which was quite unfortunate to see. And I was just like, you guys just hold your restraint for a bit. I mean, the intention was definitely to see if they could form genuine like connections without the physical, but it didn't really work for a lot of them.
Is anybody bullish that could Chloe win?
God, I love Chloe. I loved her on her original show. I love her here.
Yeah.
God, I would be thrilled to see her win. I'm not gonna lie.
Feel like she'll make it far, but I do think at the very end she's someone who could just get tanked on virtue of, well, she's a celebrity. She's already got something going on, and we're not going to give her this. I could see that happening.
We watched that show. We know she made literally like $45 from it.
20 cents. 20 cents.
Yeah.
Anyone can win the Circle, though. Anyone can win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, these last couple of seasons have been proof of that. Rob, if I may ask Taran a question here.
You may.
Taran, I'm going to read 3 book titles to you by one author, Chris Cook, a.k.a. Lee. Tell me which one you'd be willing to read, okay?
Okay.
So we've got Leah's Menage Diary, okay? We've got Misty's Bondage Diary, and then we've got The Musician in Unit G.
In what G?
Unit G.
Unit G, the musician
Yeah.
in Unit G. I think I'm going to surprise no one when I say, obviously, the bondage book.
I mean, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, spoiler alert. So Haley shared a link in our chat, and I sleuthed it. Chris Cook is a writer of many erotic novels. By what I'm seeing
fan
here.
fiction.
Right. So, yeah. So
Well,
let's
erotic
see. So,
fiction doesn't have to be fan fiction.
mhm.
Not everyone is attracted to fans.
Yes. Okay.
Or fandoms, I guess, more specifically.
So, yeah. So I'm intrigued if Karen would read one of these books and then at the next roundtable tell us whether or not you think the author is a good one or not.
Mhm.
Potentially.
I'm down.
Read it on a stream. Read it on a Twitch stream or something.
Ooh.
I will love this
I'll
idea.
be there. I will be there. It's 84 pages. It's not that much.
Oh, that's
it.
quick.
Yeah. It's a good quick read.
That's quick. Okay. Yeah, we'll have the Lee's Corner at the end of every one of these. Okay.
The link is Secret Cravings Texas Wolfpack Shifter Romance. It's got 2 colons.
It does have two
I bet a lot of
colors.
these books have 2 colons.
All right. So we get to our influencer chat. It's Chloe and Emily. They're in the hangout. # Circle Sisters. And so they're just trying to go through everything. And that's when Chloe is really getting frustrated with Emily not being direct about what she wants to do. Chloe drops the 3 amigos on Emily. Emily's being super wishy-washy. But the interesting part of this, Haley, was we cut to Taralisha and Savannah having a private chat. I was like, are these two going to be able to patch things up and put it back together?
This really sent my conflict averse sensibilities into overdrive, and I was upset because I knew that this was not going to end up good in any sense. I love that they were going to hash it out, though. I like the directness of it. I will say that. I love Taralisha's move to say her piece and then peace out of the conversation. That was fantastic. If I were Savannah, I would have opened another conversation and been like, no, listen.
Let me tell you what this was, because clearly neither of them had any intentions of clearing this up. This was, oh crap, we're gonna tell Savannah to go visit the person she thinks deserves to win. There's gonna be no final confrontation. Hey, Taralisha, don't you think you should just say something to Savannah one last time? Don't you think you should just talk to her? They really wanted this, but they should have just had her go see her. They should have been an in-person confrontation.
Savannah was never going to choose to go see Taralisha, but if Taralisha left, she would have chosen to go see Savannah.
Oh, interesting.
I very much feel that.
Yeah.
I could subscribe to that. I do think that could be possible.
Pooya, I was really hoping to see, I always want to see on these reality shows, people are feuding, and then they say, you know what, let's work together. I really was ready for Paul Rudd meme. Look at us. We're doing this. Who would have thought? Taralisha and Savannah back together.
No, they had you in the first half of that conversation, too. They just took the rug right under you when Taralisha decided to dip out on the conversation.
Yeah. He's like, all right, I'm out of here. Okay. And so, yeah, Geneva, I touched on this earlier, but then I thought this was crazy for Emily to be the person like us. Emily's whole thing is, I'm not going to offend anybody. I'm going to fly under the radar. Says, so do you want me to break the news?
Well, I guess whoever breaks the news, it's honestly not that much of a big deal. I think it's more of a deal in the sense that maybe you're more afraid to give out the news. So I feel like by Emily saying it, she could always still say oh, well, Chloe made the decision, or I was okay with what Chloe had to say, but I offered and volunteered to basically say the answer and say who we're sending home. So maybe in that moment, Emily realized, oh, maybe I should give a bit more. So I will decide to announce who we're blocking. Yeah. But even so, I don't feel like it necessarily makes an impact on who's the person who actually says circle message the person we're going to block today is.
Taran, do you find that does the group typically blame the messenger?
No, I don't think so. Not unless the message itself is particularly pointed, or for instance, if Savannah takes issue with what Taralisha says, then maybe that could cause some issue. But not generally. It's I think pretty accepted that look. The person that said it is the person that said it. And you can also, I think it's actually a good thing most of the time because it means that you are able to say, you're able to control the message. You let somebody else say, deliver the blocking, and they could say anything. They could say, we did this because of X reason. And you're like, oh, that makes me sound terrible.
Yeah.
So controlling the message is usually a good thing.
All right. It's going to come up, Savannah. Haley, can you put Savannah's run here into context? Can we have a eulogy for Savannah here, the Circle player?
Oh gosh, I'm disappointed to see Savannah go, but she burned too fast and bright. She came right out of the gate. I just don't think it's maybe like the best place to be the influencer right off the bat. That was really the beginning of the end for her. If she wasn't there, she wouldn't have had a blowout with Taralisha, so she would have stayed. I'm really disappointed to see her go. But I just didn't see a world in which they were able to both stay. It was very Harry Potter and Voldemort. Like only one could stay.
Only one could stay. Did Savannah just run into a buzzsaw in Taralisha where if this was another season and Taralisha wasn't there, do you feel like that Savannah was probably a person who could have done reasonably well?
I do think so. I think she's someone who was clearly charismatic. She was getting on with people. There was no problems. Really, the biggest wrinkle in everything, it all boils down to this one interaction in the girl chat where she decides, you know what? I'm just going to put this Trevor thing on blast. I'm going to put some eyes on him. I'm very suspect of this activity. And by doing that, you're kind of giving trust to this group, which is a good thing usually, especially when the group was clearly receptive, except for maybe Chloe. But then within like 24 hours to switch out on that decision and give this person safety, I don't care who you are, you've clearly made it seem like your word is kind of means nothing at this point. So that was the biggest problem. And even then, I would argue that more often than not, that wouldn't have carried a lot of weight, except for Taralisha being in this chat. She is the one who's like, I am not letting this happen. This is not acceptable to me. And it got wrecked. I mean, ultimately, every season, the makeup of the cast will dictate what you can do well and what you couldn't do well. So I feel like if you put Savannah in another season, I think she would fare relatively decently. She just got very unlucky by making one big mistake at the beginning that really does become her downfall.
Yeah, and I'll say as well that at the start of the game, she bonded with Taralisha over her distrust of Trevor, and then ends up bonding with him after the ratings, and so that really it put her at a place where she really needed to be able to communicate to Taralisha where she was at, and I felt like instead of going to Chloe and being like, I connected with Trevor on multiple levels, like she really needed to have that conversation with Taralisha about like, here is what happened and I want to be on the same page with you. And she should have been communicating with Taralisha about like, who do we feel good about? What are we thinking prior to the influencer chat? My guess is that she probably didn't have the opportunity to, but it really did cause her demise here.
Okay. Let's take some questions from the audience about our week in review on the Circle. And so let's go ahead and start off with Z-Man. Do they keep replacing people once someone is kicked out? First time watcher, yes, they will keep replacing people until we get close to the end of the show. Spencer Peterson wants to know, do y'all think that the Savannah boot is going to be iconic in Circle history? Similar to the Ozzy or James boots was for Survivor or nah. Geneva, do you feel like that we will talk about this historic Savannah boot?
I think we'll probably talk about it for the rest of the season, unless we see something else that maybe happens in a future US Circle season that tops this. But I think for a first week, this was a pretty chaotic way to go. This whole entire situation, if if Savannah or Taralisha were not in that influencer room, one of them, I think that this whole thing wouldn't have happened either. Of course, it all stems from Savannah's suspicion of Trevor. But I also think that plus the influencer chat and having competing interests and two people who are like, I'm going to be playing tactical, that's kind of what led to this clash in two different personalities.
Okay. Let's take one from Danny T. Would it hurt or benefit the game to have a power where a player gets to have a catfish revealed to them? I think that'd be a little too powerful.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. Okay.
Yeah. And they don't want that to be like, they want that to be in the final reveal, right? They don't want it to be like a weird part in the middle.
Yeah. Mindy Bond, what is River's best move to get further in the game? Can anybody give River some advice?
Honestly, just keep doing what you're doing because you're kind of riding the middle. You're going to keep making it far. It's going to be inconsequential. I think this is what the third season now that I can think of where the person who was first in the ratings or second in the ratings was immediately in the bottom to the next rating. So for River, you're going to keep rising in the ranks this way just by riding it out because honestly, now we have Lisa in as a catfish, new person in. You're going to have two new people coming into the circle. At some point, the OGs are going to be like, let's keep each other protected. Usually that kind of does happen. So River can ride it out. But if I was going to give Lee advice on winning the game, I would say, get a DeLorean, go back in time, come in as yourself. You don't need River because I don't think River is a character that I'm connecting with. But clearly it's working enough with other people in the circle.
Okay. I think you're going to give him advice about some of his books.
I mean,
that's what
I'm no writer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not a writer, so I don't think I could give him anything to work with.
The letters you sent me, I mean, you're a writer. All right, don't put yourself down. I mean, way better than the doctor in Unit H.
Or the fireman in Unit B. There's a bunch of them, and they're all like in Unit B, C, D. There's a lot.
A lot of unit talk.
Wow.
Oh yeah, emphasize on the unit. I get it.
So is it like a circle, like apartment building of all of these intercourse people?
Ooh, maybe that's the next installation after this season.
There it is.
All ties into Too Hot to Handle. Yeah.
The catfish in apartment C.
Unit.
Done.
Okay, then this is from Gotta Go Pack. Is Trevor going to be able to keep up with the persona? Trevor's so interested in acting how she thinks a guy acts that it's not creating genuine connections. Hashtag I'm a fun guy. It seems like Trevor seems like everything is going fine. If anything, like Savannah had an issue on night one, but Haley, I feel like that Trevor's in a pretty good spot.
I think so too, and I think she'll get more comfortable playing the role and kind of inputting a little bit of herself in it, and not necessarily having to like create a character in which she thinks people want. But she seems to, people like her so far, even if they don't believe she's real.
Yeah, Geneva, you feel like Trevor is doing okay?
Yeah, I think Trevor should focus a little bit less on whether people like sports or not, because we saw that sort of conversation, and should just focus on really like making sure that I am playing Trevor well, continuing to form connections. I mean, Trevor lost Savannah, so really focusing on who can I connect with now. But I do feel like generally Trevor isn't really in danger, just needs to probably establish more like stronger bonds with other people.
Okay. Let's do one or two more questions. Okay. Then this is from Adrian. Out of the 4 catfishes we have so far, who is most likely to go far out of this group? Okay. Is it Trevor? Is Trevor the number 1 catfish on the board? Can we rank them?
Rank them.
Yeah, Trevor's 1, Lance Bass is 4, and then it comes down to the other 2, right? River or Emily.
I think I would say River 1, Trevor 2, Emily 3, Lance 4.
I agree exactly with that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
Yeah, why River so high? Why River higher than Trevor?
I just feel like he has potential to be there at the end. I feel like less people are going to try and call him out on being a catfish. And I feel like out of all the catfishes, he's putting himself most into it with just having like a different face represent him, where the other ones, it really feels like they're trying to be somebody that they're not, and that's where they'll fall apart.
Okay. All right. Last question. This is from my beloved Med. Is Lance Bass going to be a GOAT since he's either a catfish or rich and doesn't need the money, so zero chance of winning? Interesting. That would be some emergent gameplay as far as I know about the circle. Taran, is this even possible? Could you drag somebody to the end in the circle?
Oh, you certainly could, especially if you're consistently getting influencer spots. But it's a terrible idea. The idea of a GOAT in the circle is reversed, because if you drag somebody there who has no chance of winning, all you're doing is incentivizing the other players in the final to put that person first, and then all of a sudden they just won the game. So you should not want to bring GOATs to the end. You should actually want to bring, you go ahead and you can steal the win.
Okay. Does anybody else have something about the circle week 1 or thoughts going into week 2?
I just like the strategy aspect. I like how cutthroat it is so far. Yeah. I hope it remains consistent in this regard. I hope that it was not just this one sort of like personal issue that then now has been squashed because one side is out and it's going to just kind of die down from there. I hope the war continues. I think with Courtney still kind of like riding hard, I think it might. I think there's a great storyline here for Courtney to kind of rise from the ashes of defeat here and take over the circle. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah. Will Savannah be our Ned Stark figure that will launch this Game of Thrones where that she went out early, but people will like fight and make foolish mistakes in her honor against the other group of people who conspired against Savannah? That would be really fantastic for season 2.
Remember Savannah.
As far as my quick take here goes, takeaway before we move on here, obviously having watched the Circle UK like literally a week ago and then jumping into this, there is a big difference, especially with this season. They really are leaning into the strategy side, which I am very cool with. I do hope that we see a little bit more of the relationships forming, because like this new Three Amigos thing, I need to be a little bit more invested in, but I need to get it. I feel like any relationship River has made, I'm not connecting with, and I think it's a way that it's been edited, but also it's fair enough because they literally have been focusing most of the attention on Savannah and she just left. So there's a lot of airtime waiting to be injected into someone else's story, and I'm keen to see who they put it on. But it's been fun. It's been a fun 4 episodes, and I'm sure the next 4 are going to be fun as well.
Yeah. Haley, any final thoughts?
It's been unsettling, to say the least, hearing all of the letters and alert. I've gotten very used to just alert, where like there's like 3 letters missing from that. The clarity of alert, not for me, I don't think.
Okay. You feel like it's too breaking news?
No, it's just so harsh on my delicate ears. Alert, where alert is like
it's an alert.
Off.
In Geneva, or let me go to Geneva and then go to Pooya.
Yeah, so overall, I have been enjoying the start of the season. I personally am a huge fan of strategic and, as often said, tactical gameplay. I'm glad that there are people who are there to play. I similarly, though, want to get to know these individuals on a more human level and get to know more about them individually. So I am hoping that we'll see that. I'm intrigued to see where Taralisha's relationship with Chloe goes in the future, as well as with Emily as a potential trio, since they basically saved her over Savannah. I'm intrigued to see where River goes. Could River go with them because of Taralisha's connection to River? Are people who were close to Savannah just going to form new relationships with people who were pro Savannah, or are they just going to get to know the newer people. How are they going to navigate the game? I'm really intrigued to see also where Taralisha will stand after this, because, you know, there are some people who don't really trust her based on what she said, but of course she does also have a lot of support. So I have been enjoying the season. I'm glad that it's had a pretty like upbeat start. I didn't feel like it was that slow. I mean, of course, the first episode you find out who's who and everything, but I feel like we got a lot of progress, and we got a sense of where the game is going.
Yeah. Pooya?
I'm not vibing with the narration this season. I know it's been mentioned. I have to bring it up again because it doesn't hit. It's not hitting for me. It kind of does come off a little bit cringy, and I'm not sure because this happened last season. And Taran's the one who's mentioned he felt that last season, but he hadn't just watched the Circle UK, and now having seen how good the Circle UK's narration is, it kind of feels like she's been given a script and then is reading it out, whereas it's not like her own jokes, her own takes coming through, and it's not translating well at all. So that is my one big qualm, is the narration.
Pooya not liking the narration. That was my take on the narration.
Oh, I see. Okay, I was like, what are you being shady for? I get it now.
It's just so monotone sometimes. It's like it's like she got dressed. Here's what it is. It's like she woke up. She had to record from home. She can't go outside because the world sucks. And she's
that's
like,
interesting.
this stupid script. And there's nobody there to be like, we need more enthusiasm.
Yeah. As somebody who has not just watched the Circle UK, the only person on this panel, I haven't noticed that it's that bad. That I definitely understand what you're saying. So, but I don't have like the frame of reference to compare it to. So I haven't found it to be jarringly bad in this season.
Yeah. Okay. It could also be as they're mentioning in the chat. It could be the writing, and it could be what I'm catching could be. Oh God, this is terrible. All right, I'll read it.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah. One last thing, going into week number 2, Savannah's replacement. Could we say with almost 100% certainty that we will have a woman come in, and it is a woman who will not be a catfish? We have 4 catfishes already in the house.
Yes, we did. We saw the in the preview that we had 2 new players coming in.
2,
right?
Yeah.
And
1 male, 1 female.
Yes,
we're up to 9.
Yes, and it seemed like they were. I guess they didn't say whether they would be playing themselves. I'm not sure.
Okay.
No, I think and this is the 60-second for those of you who don't want to know what I'm about to say, because if you didn't watch the batch trailer they put out. So I think the male player is playing themselves because I believe I saw some photos in the batch trailer. Potentially. Yeah. So I don't know what if the female player is going to be playing themselves, but I believe I can confidently say I think the male player is playing themselves.
Okay. All right. Usually I go to Haley to hear what's going on in the batch trailer.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about what's coming up this week here on Rob Has a Podcast. Of course, the other night, I got to talk about Survivor Gabon. I had a great time with Maggie Morgan and Phil Thompson talking about all things Survivor Gabon, almost 4 hours there. Talking about the 26th best season of Survivor. If you haven't, I know there's a lot of stuff going on right now, but if you missed that one, that's a great listen this weekend, talking about Survivor Gabon. And of course, if you watch Survivor Gabon, you said, wait, how did Bob win? We'll tell you exactly how, because yes, that's right. David Bloomberg and Jessica Lewis have gotten back together to tell you exactly how Bob did it, why Bob won. I believe is going to be dropping. If it's not already out, it's going to be coming to you very soon. Find out how Bob did it in Survivor Gabon. And then this Wednesday night, we are up to the 25th best season of all time. And when Pooya is back, that's right, the Peapod Squad is going to be going on Wednesday night, because it's going to be Pooya and Mel Hulst talking with me about Survivor Samoa. Pooya, have you started a Samoa rewatch yet?
No,
because I was
Okay.
watching The Circle.
That's
So
fine. That's fine. Neither have I.
Yeah.
Neither have I. We got plenty of time.
now it's
Got
gonna
plenty of time.
happen.
So join us on Wednesday night for that. Of course, this week Twish Ultimate Trivia was going. Of course, we've had so much fun. Never more than when Haley was on with us a couple of weeks back on Twish Ultimate Trivia. But we were back for another exciting round of Twish Ultimate Trivia with Jordan Kalish. If you love Survivor Trivia, you are in for a treat, as our all-women panel was on fire with Twish Ultimate Trivia this week. Check that out at robhasawebsite.com. And then, of course, all right, another podcast with the Peapod Squad is going to be when Jerped gets back together this Monday night. Myself, Pooya, Taran, Jenny Autumn is going to be back at it for another crazy week in that Big Brother Canada house. Taran, what's crazier, the Big Brother Canada house or the Circle flat?
I'm going to say the Big Brother Canada house with some certainty. Although, Rob, I do not know if the world is ready for a Jerped reunion. I don't know if they're prepared.
Jerped strikes back. Okay.
Jerp the sequel.
Yeah. Okay. And then if you missed it on Thursday, we talked to Phil Kogan to close out season 2 of Tough as Nails. Of course, a lot of fun with Phil every week, talking Tough as Nails with Jess Lees and Mike Bloom. And then on this past Monday, Pooya and I broke down part 1 of the 90 Day Fiance finale. We will be talking about part 2 of the 90 Day Fiance finale this Monday as well. Should be a lot of fun. Of course, we've got so much going on here in the month of April. Of course, it's always great to check out everything we're doing to make these podcasts happen at robhasawebsite.com/patron. Between everything going on in our patron podcast feed, weekly additional feedback shows about our Survivor countdown, plus weekly patron activities, including we've just been started talking about patron karaoke at the end of the month, and so much more going on at robhasawebsite.com/patron. Of course, if you're watching the YouTube video, be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, hit that bell notification to go get notified when either Taran or I are going live. And of course, check out our social media profiles, including our Instagram account, where our hosts like Pooya are doing takeovers at RHAP Grams on Instagram or Robin's Podcast on Twitter. Thanks so much, Scott, for all of that. All right. Of course, Geneva, where can we keep up with everything you're doing?
Yeah, everyone can keep up with me at Peace Love Jen, GEN, on Twitter. I tweet all about reality TV, the shows that I'm watching, including The Circle, Temptation Island, and the wide variety of reality shows that are going on. You can also find me on YouTube at Silent Podcasts, where I talk about reality TV with Sasha and with Isaiah, who are also podcasters for RHAP.
Yeah. All right. Great job tonight, Geneva. All right. Haley, how about you?
You can find me all over the internet at @strong_. You can check out my new book account on Instagram at The Strong Library.
Oh, wait, hold on.
You
have a
better
book
believe I'm going to
account.
review one of those.
Yes, please.
Heck yes, I am. They're only like $2.50 on Amazon. I'm going to buy one. And you can check out regular coverage of Top Chef on the RHAP Ups Network.
Mhm.
And I joined you, Robert, and Chappelle and Shannon Gus
Yes.
last week.
It was believe it or not, yeah, it was a week ago last Thursday on the RHAP Rewind to talk about season 6 of America's Next Top Model.
I gotta say, one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done.
That was
what a
fun.
thrill.
It was a great podcast. Check that out on the RHAP Rewind. And then this past week, we have another RHAP Rewind. We just dropped that on last night when Chappelle and I talked with Kelsey Rasmondi about Nanny 911. So another fun episode of the RHAP Rewind for you to check out. Pooya, what do you got going on?
Well, people can find me on all major social media platforms at Pooyaism. As far as other podcasts that we haven't talked about yet, Liana and I are literally the hosts of the best Masked Singer recap podcast out there. We got to talking about the last series of the wildcard entries, and then next week we're going to jump into the Super 8. It was a great one. It was out of this world, and if you've listened to it already, you know exactly what that reference means, and I'll leave it there.
Okay. And then before we get to Taran, I just want to recognize a comment from the chat. Ruwan says that Bryant was in America's Next Top Model. Haley, did you know this?
I did not, because I've done, if you can believe it, I've done a slight amount of research. He was in a season I hadn't seen before, and from what I could tell, he didn't make it into the house either time.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, he was on the first 3 episodes of America's Next Top Model, cycle 22, which I believe was that the last one they did.
No, they did 24.
24. Okay.
But I think they did like 3 guys cycles involving men, and I think maybe 22 was the last one of that, or maybe 23 was. I can't remember. I haven't seen that far yet. This week I just watched a season I had never seen before.
Yeah. Taran, for Bryant, does this speak ill of his reality TV competition chops to be eliminated 3 episodes into America's Next Top Model, 2 episodes into The Circle?
Well, it seems like after being eliminated from America's Next Top Model, he was like, you know what, I'm gonna find myself and recenter. And so maybe after being eliminated early from The Circle, he'll become an even better person. Right?
Yeah,
like he'll become.
He's too pure for these shows. Too good for this world. Okay, Taran, what do you have coming up?
Well, of course, Big Brother coverage every morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, updating everything that's going on the Big Brother Canada 9 live feeds and after every episode to recap the episodes. Tuesdays, we have the Roundtable, which is very fun. Go over the week on the feeds and rate the players and play the Stock Watch game. And you can also find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, hanging out, playing games, doing all kinds of fun stuff.
Okay. All right. Taran, make sure to take multivitamins and be getting plenty of rest as much as you can right now, because between Big Brother Canada and The Circle, we can't afford anything to happen to you right now. Okay.
It's all right. It's the circle of podcasting, Rob.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll be back again next Saturday at 7 Eastern for the Week 2 Roundtable Live. This was a lot of fun tonight. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.